Live long and prosper. No. No. Welcome back. All right, Petr Nedved. So another career video today, as I put together some career videos during the off season. We have time for this. It's fun to look back. And Nedved, a hockey player everybody had an opinion on. And you may have seen him as a very skilled player. You may have seen him as a very soft player. You may have seen him as a guy who could score some big key goals, and you may not have. So Nedved, again, very polarizing during his time in the league. And I've been talking a lot lately about players who are polarizing in opinions of fans. Nedved was one of those guys, and was right out of the gate. The 1990 draft was loaded. This was a draft that right up at the top, you had Nolan, you had Nedved, you had Ricci, you had Primo as well. This was a pretty strong draft. When the Canucks drafted Petr Nedved, he was seen as being the savior of a team that hadn't had a winning season in about 15 years. 88-89 season with Seattle. So Seattle Thunderbirds, which I thought's a nice tie-in too, since Seattle's coming into the NHL. So why not talk about a former Thunderbird who in his 1 year in Seattle turned a lot of heads. 71 games, 65 goals, 80 assists for 145 points. That's not bad. Even by 80 standards, that's pretty good. So the excitement level around Nedved was huge. So he signs his entry-level contract. And in Vancouver that first year, it was kind of a disaster. 61 games, 10 goals, 6 assists, 16 points. And then in the playoffs, he plays 6 games and has 1 assist. So this is a time when, well, they've gone through Krutov and Larionov, and while Larionov's showing some potential, Krutov was a disaster. And so now you've drafted Nedved, who's supposed to be the savior of the team. This is when you're seeing numerous saviors come into Vancouver that don't really make it. But it's always darkest before the dawn, right? Well, 91-92, things turn around for the Canucks. Not necessarily for Nedved, although in 77 games, 15 goals, 22 assists, 37 points. There was still a lot of criticism around Petr Nedved at this point. However, his totals were getting better. In the playoffs, he plays 10 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. The potential is still there. He realizes that potential in year 3. 84 games played. It was an 84-game schedule that year. 38 goals, 33 assists, 71 points. All of a sudden, he is a goal scorer. He is a point producer. Everything looks great, and then the playoffs happen. 12 games in the playoffs, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. And then he committed the ultimate unpardonable sin in the eyes of Canuck fans at the time. And you guys can let me know in the comment section below how you feel about this. That at the end of the series, they had just got knocked out by the Kings. He asked Gretzky for his stick. So you're in the handshake line. Just imagine, you're watching the Flyers and the Penguins, and in the handshake line, Travis Konechny says to Sidney Crosby, "Hey, can I have your stick? Can you sign a stick? Give me your stick." It didn't play well. And then to make it worse, Petr Nedved decided, I want to get paid. And he wanted to get paid north of $1 million. Looked at other salaries on the team and went, I deserve that. But Pat Quinn, not really wanting to pay him the same amount as the star players on the team were making yet. It was 1 good year. And this is a different time. Now we see guys get paid for 1 good year all the time. It's not a big deal, right? Especially when they're young. But back then it was, hey, it's 1 good year. We'll give you 1 or 2 year contract. We'll give you a bit of a raise, but you're not getting over $1 million. Well, St. Louis ends up signing him. So March 5th, I should say, of 1994, he signs as a free agent in St. Louis. Now, let's harken back to the Brendan Shanahan video. This is when you have compensation for the restricted free agents. And it, honestly, if the NHL could figure out a hybrid of this, it might make for some really interesting times with restricted free agents. And I think right now of Kirill Kaprizov. Think about it if teams knew that they could bring in Kaprizov and just sign him, and Minnesota just gets compensation back. And that there's an arbitrator that might decide compensation. Now, that can be terrifying. It could end up working to the benefit of the Minnesota Wild, depending on the compensation, but it would add a lot more urgency to negotiations. So Craig Janney was awarded to the Vancouver Canucks. Craig Janney immediately said, I'm not going there. That might be where I, as a Canuck fan, said, okay, sure. Janney produced a lot of points. I didn't see how Janney was necessarily going to be a playoff performer for Vancouver. So Vancouver ends up trading Janney back to St. Louis. They get Jeff Brown. They get A lot of good pieces that end up helping them get to a Stanley Cup. 19 games played in St. Louis after all the dust settles for Nedved. 6 goals, 14 assists for 20 points. But in the playoffs, and that was the key thing in the playoffs, 4 games played, 1 assist. Now, while he was holding out, he got his Canadian citizenship, and he represented Canada at the Olympics, and he got a silver medal. So that probably helped his value, that he went out there at the Winter Games, and while it wasn't all NHL players in 94, he was still able to get a medal for Canada. And, yeah, it was pretty good. However, July 25th of 1994, he's traded to the New York Rangers for Doug Lidster and Esa Tikkanen. Now, here's the interesting thing with that, of course, is that when St. Louis in 94, when that didn't work out, and they'd been spending money, they go out and they get Mike Keenan, and Keenan starts bringing in his guys right away, like Lidster, Tikkanen, and there would be others. Brian Noonan. Noonan had to follow him around. That was just a rule. So he goes to the Rangers, and that 1 year with the Rangers, 46 games, 11 goals, 12 assists, 23 points. Disappointing totals. And in the playoffs, 10 games, he had 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points. Arguably not bad in the playoffs, comparatively speaking with previous, but 46 games and 23 points isn't good enough. And that is a lockout shortened season, so he only missed 2 games that year. So he's traded again. August 31st of 1995, he's traded to the Penguins with Sergei Zubov for Luc Robitaille and Ulf Samuelsson. It is stars going one way, stars going the other way, big names, huge trade. And in Pittsburgh, it just clicks. First year, it absolutely clicks. 80 games, 45 goals, 54 assists for 99 points. Fantastic year for him. 18 games in the playoffs, 10 goals, 10 assists for 20 points. He has a great playoff and scored some key goals in that playoff run. The following season, 74 games, 33 goals, 38 assists, 71 points. In the playoffs, 1 goal and 2 assists in 5 games. So the playoffs back down to production, but his production during the regular season isn't bad. So he sits down and decides, I want more money. And so he has a contract dispute with the Pittsburgh Penguins that goes an entire year. Now he ends up going to the Rangers, makes less money with the Rangers than what he was making with Pittsburgh. So it ends up costing him, and yet it's a better fit with the New York Rangers than it was with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So he is traded November 25th of 1998. So this is during the season. So he misses the entire 97-98 season and the start of 98-99. So he's traded with Sean Pronger. Yes, there was a Sean Pronger. Chris Tamer in exchange for Alexei Kovalev and Harry York. So, not too bad of a trade. And again, you've got 1 star forward going one way and a star forward going the other in Kovalev. So 56 games played with the Rangers, 20 goals, 27 assists, 47 points. But again, with the Rangers, he did pretty well. 99-2000, 76 games, 24 goals, 44 assists, 68 points. 2000-2001, arguably his best season with the Rangers. Made Jan Hlavac look quite good that year as well. I believe that was the year that they had the check line together. 79 games, 32 goals, 46 assists, 78 points. So about a point a game. 2001-2002, 78 games, 21 goals, 25 assists, 46 points. Notice there's no playoff games in here because this was at a time when the Rangers were spending a lot of money, not getting to the playoffs with it. 2001-2002, 78 games, 27 goals, 31 assists, 58 points. The following season, 2003-2004, 65 games, 14 goals, 17 assists, 31 points. Points are starting to drop. So, March 3rd of 2004, around the trade deadline, he's traded with UC Markkanen for a 2004 second-round pick. Dwight Helmanen and Steve Valiquette go the other way. So the Rangers kind of dump him off. He goes to the Oilers, plays 16 games, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points. Almost said Islanders, had the wrong orange and blue. That I was going to say there. So 2004-2005 season, of course, was wiped out. So he's able to go home to the Czech Republic. And one thing for Nedved was he had no problem with going over to Europe and playing there instead. He kind of had an attitude of, I'm going to make this amount of money, and if they won't pay me that amount of money, I'll just go home and play there. And it kind of takes that leverage away from the team. Now, August 26th of 2004, before the lockout wiped out season, he signed in Phoenix. So he signed in Phoenix before a season that's completely wiped out. So he's Phoenix property in 05-06, plays 25 games, 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points. The speed at the NHL level, not where it was, and the offense definitely not where it was. So, January 20th of 2006, he was traded with a 2006 fourth rounder to Philadelphia in exchange for another 2006 fourth rounder. So you're just trading up kind of thing, right? And with Philadelphia, he plays 28 games, 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points. Not bad. Really, honestly, not bad. About, point every other game. And then in the playoffs, he had 2 goals in 6 games. And that would be his final appearance in the playoffs. 2006-2007, with Philadelphia, 21 games, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. And then January 2nd of 2007, they put him on waivers. And he's claimed by the Edmonton Oilers. In 19 games with the Oilers, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. So that would finish out his NHL career. He played in the Czech League for 7 years following that. He didn't stop playing hockey until 2014. Plays 982 games in his career. Easily would have passed 1,000 if not for holdouts. 310 goals. Might have threatened 400, again, if not for holdouts and leaving the league and all that. And, of course, the lockout wiped out season 2. 407 assists, 717 points. In the playoffs, plays 71 games, 19 goals, 23 assists for 42 points. So, Nedved came in with a lot of fanfare. Again, I think what happens is, and this is one of those high draft pick things, you draft a guy number 2, he's got all this pressure on him. And I don't know that Nedved was ever going to equal that in Vancouver. Like, if he doesn't end up getting traded around, I don't know that he ever gets a 99-point season in Vancouver. I don't know that the fit would have been there. I know he had the 71-point season and the 38 goals. I don't know that he would have had 99 as a Canuck. It was a trade that ultimately worked out for Vancouver in that he wasn't necessarily traded, but again, it's that whole compensation thing, right? And it was a strange time because a Vancouver team that in 91, 92, and 92, 93, both years they finished first in their division and they looked really good. They lose in the second round both times. 93, 94, they fell off. They fell off big time. They were number 7 in their conference going into the playoffs. And the Nedved holdout was kind of, held over their heads for 3/4 of the season. He goes to St. Louis, plays very well, but in the playoffs, we know Vancouver ends up going to the Stanley Cup final. But reportedly, too, at the time, he had no regrets. That when Vancouver went to the Stanley Cup final, his attitude was one of, I got what I wanted, I'm happy for them, but I knew what I wanted and I stuck to my guns. Which, depending on how you look at it, you might look at that and say he's spoiled and he's what a rotten teammate, to just demand all this money. Or you may look at it and say, you know what, I can respect a guy that knows what he's worth and is willing to sit out for as long as it takes to make that contract happen. And if it doesn't, he's okay with that too. And again, that seemed to be the prevailing opinion from him was, I'll just wait. I can go home and play in the Czech Republic. And yeah, if I get the contract I want, great. And if I don't, I'm okay with that too. So let me know your thoughts regarding Nedved in the comment section below. He was an explosive offensive player. I do understand why people thought he was soft, but he's an example of a player that, was able to flourish and thrive at a time when players that were a bit smaller might have been struggling due to the clutching, grabbing, holding, hooking, all of the stuff that was being done to try to take the skilled players out. But he didn't do too bad. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.